Time for a Tamiya German Steyr Kommandeurwagen. Hi and welcome back to Plastic Models by a Regular Dude and my next project, the Tamiya 1/35 scale German Steyr 1500A Kommandeurwagen. First up, credit where credit is due. Big thanks to Eric Davenport for sending me this kit. Eric, if you're watching, I hope you enjoyed the build. Okay, the plan for today's video is to take a look at the box, take a look at the contents, then do the build. Once the build is complete, I will come back and talk a little bit about the kit, offer any suggestions if need be, and just give my overall impression of the build and how it went together. This is the Tamiya 1/35 scale German Steyr 1500A Kommandeurwagen HQ staff set with 7 figures. As you can see on the box here, it shows Tamiya in the corner, underneath that ICM. The ICM parts in this particular kit are 4 of the figures, and we'll look at all that once we get into the actual contents of the box. Okay, this was a new tool kit in 1998. In 1999, some new parts were added to create a little bit different version. Looks like an Africa Core version. 2006, we had some new parts again. 2009, more new parts. And finally, 2012, which is this boxing, we have new parts again, which I am going to have to assume are the extra figures from ICM. We've got the regular style box from Tamiya, white, with a nice illustration of the vehicle and the figures. On the side, we have an illustration of the gray vehicle in 17th Army Commanding General Ruoff's vehicle, Russia, autumn 1942. Other side of the box, we have an actual photo of the completed kit and figures. Now, I just want to make a comment on this photo here. This is very Tamiya old school. The old catalogs I used to get back in the 80s, this is the way they illustrated a lot of their kits. Kind of a warmish background with black on the top, and then, you know, a photo of the actual build kit. So it's kind of a nostalgic little photo going on there. Instructions, it is the fold-out map style instructions. Has information on the vehicle in 4 different languages. Inside, read before assembly section, just giving pointers and such. We've got recommended tools. We've got the Tamiya colors listed here. And then we just get into the build. So if you watch my channel, or if you've ever built a Tamiya kit, you know what this stuff's all about. So we won't get too much into this. Pretty straightforward stuff. So once you get to step 13, you're pretty much finishing it up. You can do either the cabriolet top in the extended position or in the folded position. The extended position comes with a nice little clear piece of glass, plastic, whatever you want to call it. So I'll decide a little bit later which way I'm going to go, but I'll most likely go with the folded open top just so you can see what's going on inside the vehicle, but we'll see what happens. So we've got these 3 figures here. These are the Tamiya figures, obviously, and the kit does come with 7. So the other 4, as I mentioned earlier, and as noted on the box top, the other 4 are ICM figures. So we've got driver, commander figure, or general actually, and then a commander here with some binoculars in a standing pose. Then on the back, we have the options available. We have Unknown Division, Ardennes, 1944. It's a camouflage pattern. Doesn't look like any markings other than this, like, I can't remember what you call those. General officer pennants or something like that. Got one there and one there. Different ones on each side. Then we have 17th Army Commanding General Ruoff's vehicle, Russia, autumn 1942. And that is actually a gray color, earlier war. So those, and then you have number 3, Unknown Division, Eastern Front. Has a gray base with a whitewash going on. So those are the marking and color options. In addition to the kit instructions, you've got the instructions for the other 4 figures here. So we've got a Commander B, got a General, a Female Aide, Non-Commissioned Officer, and a Commander A. It's all done by Tamiya, all Tamiya colors. So pretty simple. Next up, we have the decals, or Decals, or Decals, or water slide stickers. So we've got all these pennants here. Then we have different license plate, or whatever you want to call it, ID plates. Not a whole lot going on. So it'd probably be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 decals per version. So not too bad. Yeah, just they're, these are actually copyright 1999, and they're Tamiya decals. Slightly thick, but they should be okay. Normally I save stuff like this for last, but it's on the top of the pile, so we'll take a look here. The figures, the ICM figures. 1, 2, 3, 4. They look pretty decent. Detail's good. Cleanup shouldn't be too bad. And I think I will most likely do these figures because I need the practice. But they look pretty good. Molding's good. Not too shabby. Detail on like the satchel, valise, briefcase kind of thing. Looks good. Holster. Good definition on the hands and phalanges and stuff. So it looks pretty good. Okay, then we've got the, this is the rear. What we call a trunk in the United States, and what some people call a turtle. It's the back part where you would store luggage and or whatever. Nice shape to it. Not a whole lot going on, pretty simple. And then the bonnet, or hood as we call it in the United States, nicely molded again. Some fine detail going on there. Looks pretty good. Next up we have sprue A. So it's the chassis. Looks good. Not too much in the way of seam lines along the edges, like there can be at times. Looks pretty good. Okay, now see, that's weird because a lot of times people, it's like, you need to wash your sprues because there's release stuff. Well, there was some kind of gooey junk on there. That's interesting. So I'll definitely have to pay attention to that whenever I get to paint. Exhaust, differentials, axles, just suspension and steering components and engine. And then some accessory type things for this bloke right here. But, you know, it all looks good. No flash, easily cleaned up. Sprue B, we've got the wheels and tires, more small fittings, headlights, driver's compartment stuff, you know, gear shifts, brake levers, steering column, steering wheel, leaf springs, jack, the ever popular jack for German vehicles, jerry can, some these right here, kind of a wood texture going on. I'm not sure what those are unless they're like, oh, must be a box. These are all the components for a box, wooden box, and it's nice that it's all separate pieces like that because they were able to maintain wood grain all the way around, so that looks good. Got a range finding device there. Detail on the figures looks pretty good. The markings on the cap look nice. Same with the markings on the torso there. So sprue B looks good. We have sprue E, which is the floor pan, the top, the cover in the closed position. The turtle or trunk lid, doors. Now the nice thing is because these doors are two parts, they have a door panel on the inside. The ejector pin marks are not going to be an issue, so won't have to mess with any of those. But all these parts look nicely molded. The window cranks, door handles, etc. Those are molded on, so that's nice. Not little fiddly parts to have to mess with. Sprue F. We have another seated figure here. The seats, the folded top, more panels with like map pockets, document pockets. Pretty nice dashboard there. Now the seats, those look really good. They got a lot of textures and wrinkles and imperfections in it, so that's going to be fun to paint those, you know, get them all doctored up and weathered up. Another jerry can, headlight covers, just other small parts. All looks good. Finally, we have the simulated glass. Now these look to be in really, this is some good stuff here. There's a slight bit of waviness to them, like very fine waviness to them, but no distortion, or very little of it. Very flat. Just looks really good. I like that. That glass looks really nice. This is a 1998 kit. I'm impressed. So anyway, that's the glass. And then in the A sprue bag, there was this mesh here for whatever that's for. And then in one of the others, I'm thinking it was sprue B, we've got some poly caps, probably for the wheels. There you go. That's a look at the box and the contents. So I'm going to shut down this here camera, jump on this thing and start building it. Once it's complete, I'll come back and we'll take a look at it. Alrighty folks, here it is. It has been assembled. So you're going to hear stuff falling around, and I'll explain that in a moment, but there's what it looks like in profile. The top is not glued on, and the seats are not glued in, and also the water can and the fuel can are not glued in either, leaving those off for painting. The interior I painted the gray. It'll get a little bit of weathering. I still need to touch up the boot right there on the control levers, like the differential selector and all that kind of stuff. Need to paint the steering wheel, but for all intents and purposes, assembly has been completed. Let's talk a little bit about the assembly. So not really a whole lot to talk about. Step one, everything went together without a hitch, no problems, everything lined up, everything was great. Parts fit really well, not a lot of cleanup. Same with step two, step three. Now, the nice thing about Tamiya kits, and if you've built them, you know this, and if you haven't, this is definitely a plus, is almost always, I can't really even think of a time when they're not like this. There's what's commonly referred to as a poly cap on the inside of this. It's more like a sleeve that fits inside. That way it press fits onto the axle, and you know, they spin, which, you know, who cares about that unless you're a kid and you want to play with it, because, you know, you can roll it around. But the nice thing is you can get the thing assembled, but then you can pop those things off for painting if that's the style, if that's the way you like to paint things. But those went together fine. They are a two-piece tire with rims, but the seam is on the inside, so with just a little bit of work you can get that cleaned up good. Step four, again, no issues there. Not really any issues anywhere. Now you run into some options where you can either have the boot / trunk open or closed. I opted to go with closed, so the spare did not get put in there. I might be able to use that in the future on something else. On the windscreen, you need to determine if you want the top on or off or up or down. In this case, I am going with the with it up. So I did not need to put the sun visors on. If you have it down, it says to put the sun visors on. But all these parts went fine. There's no decals here. I just did some very quick rudimentary painting on them. As a matter of fact, I painted it the interior color, then barely touched that stuff up in black, and then the speedo and the other gauges I just hit with a black, kind of a heavy black wash. It's touched in there so it would fill it in there with black, just so it gives the appearance of some dials in there, because it's pretty dark inside of there. These things here, the screen, you know, it's the old school mesh that Tamiya used to supply with their kits. It's like a nylon mesh. It works. It can be kind of tricky to cut. It's very fine, so it's kind of hard to see exactly, you know, if you want to cut it really super straight, it can be a little bit tricky, but not too bad. And what I like to do is, in a case like this, I don't like to cut it right on here because I don't like to destroy the instructions till I'm done. So I just got a piece of Tamiya, wide Tamiya tape, outlined all the parts, and then peeled the tape off, put it on my cutting mat, and used that as a template. Then we get into the seats. Pretty basic, not a whole lot going on as far as parts. There's this grab handle here, and then a release or a swivel here for the you know, on the real vehicle the seat could tilt forward so people could get into the back or make extra room or whatever. I mean, it's 4-door, so that just seems kind of weird, but they did it. The front fit onto the pan just fine. These fenders fit onto the bonnet or hood just fine. Again, then this whole situation here. Now, I will say this is the way I did this. There are two locating pins back here. So I lined those up. I held the front in place, put the chassis in place and glued that. Took this off, let that dry up good. Then I put this back on there. I didn't want to have to be fumbling around with this and this at the same time, but I didn't want to glue this subassembly to this subassembly, just for insurance of alignment, but it all went together fine. So that's just the way I did it. They recommend in the instructions that you glue all this together at once, and it does fit just right. It's just the way I did it. All these small parts here, no problem. Cans, no problem. Again, I just left those off. I did put this chap together for later painting. I put the tripod, telescope case, and the telescope. It's more of a rangefinder kind of thing. Those are all together and ready to go. They just need to be painted. This box here, pretty simple. The way it's laid out, if you just look at these illustrations, you can't really mix up the parts, and it fits together well. These edges are beveled, so when you glue them together, they just seal up nicely, and you get a nice crisp fitting corner, no gaps or anything like that. Then we have the doors, and it's nice because the doors, you put the doors together and then you slide the glass in, so I can pull these back out so I can paint all this stuff, because I'm going to paint this and this separate, as well as the seats. That way I can get it all painted, then finalize the assembly. But it is together to where you can see how it, you know, what it looks like. But I may leave these windows out just because, you know, I want it to look like the windows are down so you can kind of see inside. There's another figure for the back. I haven't decided if I'm going to put him in there or not. And then the final assembly, put the glass in the back here. The glass, again, as I mentioned early on, looking in the box, super clear, super flat, no distortion, or very, very, very little distortion. Then you have, you know, shows the top-down configuration. And that finishes up assembly. So the fit is really nice. Nothing really to talk about. I mean, it just went together as it should. Looks good, nice and sturdy. Should be able to handle you know, some painting and all that kind of stuff. Normally I probably would have left these off and painted them separately and then installed them later and put the decals on, but I figured I'd just do all of that at once. So now we're ready for paint. So as I like to do on these videos, I like to talk a little bit about, is this good for a beginner? Could a beginner build this kit and do it without much hassle? And the answer is yes. This could be built by a beginner. There's not a whole lot of parts. There's no surprises. Instructions are very clear. The parts to go together perfectly. So a beginner could build this without trouble at all. So I would recommend it. Here you go. Another one done. The Tamiya Kommandeurwagen. So I will do this up in paint and all that, but I am going to get 3 or 4 kits that I've done in this style of build, get them all painted, and then I'll show all of the painted kits at once, do slideshow and all that kind of thing. This was mainly an exercise in the assembly and what comes in the box. So hopefully you enjoyed this video. And if you haven't done so yet, maybe hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, so the algorithm will like me more, get my videos out there for the vulgar masses to absorb. So yeah, that's it. Thanks for joining me here on Plastic Models by a Regular Dude with the Tamiya 1/35 scale Kommandeurwagen German Steyr Type 1500A. So until next time in the next project, thanks for watching, and I will see you all later.